Hello and welcome to She the People. We are here for the second edition of the Online Safety Summit for Women powered by Colors. This summit is an attempt to get all stakeholders together and explore a consolidated approach to online safety. Women and children are at a greater risk of cyberbullying, and internet safety for kids depends on parents being aware of online threats and understanding of how to help their children and young adults through it. The topic of our panel discussion today is Eyes Wide Open: What Parents Should Know About Internet Safety. Through this session, we aim to discuss how we can make parents more aware and thus help them make online experiences risk free for children. I will shortly introduce my panelists. We have Dr. Ira Dutta here. She's a psychiatrist, a mental health columnist, and a vlogger. She's also a wellness coach. She has practiced in Mumbai, Delhi, and Pune, and now calls Kolkata her home. We have Bisma Shaikh here. She's an RCI certified speech language pathologist and audiologist. She specializes in pediatric communication disorders like autism, stuttering, and cognitive delays. She also is the founder of the Speaking Mummy. We have Vaishali Sudan here. She's the founder of the Champa tree. It is one of the leading and most active parenting blogs in India. It has also been recognized and well received by the Indian media. Hi, great to have you all here. Okay, so shall I start with my opening question? So I want to ask the three of you. You all are a part of communities where parents come to you with concerns, right? So what are the main concerns of parents when they come to you with regard to inhibitions and challenges in the online world? I want to start with Bisma.
Hello. Basically, the main thing that parents, come up with, if we introduce screen to our child, will our child get addicted to it? How do we maintain a control over it? How do we maintain a schedule over it without letting them go overboard? So I think that is one of the most important concerns of parents. Like, how do we introduce? How much do we introduce? And how do we, gain control over it?
Okay. What about you, Vaishali?
First of all, thank you for having us over. It is such an important topic in today's day and age. And first of all, I want to really be forgiven for my screen right now because, as you can see, one of the issues right now is that you can see the name of my child, right? And that is exactly where the issue is: online security. Where to draw the line? As an influencer or a mummy blogger, we tend to use generate user generated content a lot, right? And therefore the biggest question that is asked, or we ask other influencer mums and friends, is that what should we be doing? Should we be posting pictures which are close to our heart because they're more authentic? Should we be telling people or the world about our personal lives, or should we just be very hush hush and only talk about generic stuff because that might not be relatable at all? As you can see, my son's name right there, and if you go on the Champa tree's Instagram handle, you'll see our daily lives being shared. So to some extent, it's important to talk about online safety, but more importantly, it is important to know when and where to draw a line. So the questions that are basically asked and the content that we share on the Champa tree regarding online security is largely how to handle it and how to handle the repercussions. So a lot of parents ask us about not just what, like Bisma mentioned, screen time, but also what are the guidelines, not just for the kids, but also for the parents. Because today, 90% of us are influencers in our own ways. So we are being watched, whether it's a circle of friends or it's a larger group.
Right. What about you, Dr. Datta?
So first of all, I'm a doctor only by day. I'm a mommy 24/7. So my answer is going to be two-part. One is the
Mm.
professional aspect of it, and one is surely going to be the personal aspect. I resonate with what both of you said. Of course, personally, I choose to not put any of my child's name and content on my own social media because that is one of my biggest worries. That growing up, what if she doesn't want to be on social media, or growing up, she will have her own opinion around these things. Plus the security, safety, like you said, very particularly about having the child be in a world where she feels safe. So as any other parent, I worry that my child needs to be safe and secure, and feel like a sense of being in a protective environment and not stifling one, but yet one where they can express themselves in the right degrees as a parent. As a professional, I think some of the most common questions that I get asked in my day-to-day practices are, number one, parents obviously wanting the very obvious but the very impossible, that how can I get my child to stop watching when they themselves are very merrily on the devices themselves. Number two is, how can I get my child to sort of be careful. For example, a lot of teenage girls that we've interviewed of the time, who come in with very grave issues. The bottom, when it just trickles down to the bottom, it's about cyberbullying. It's because they were trolled, or for example, if they were made to feel embarrassed about a body part. So a lot of body shaming happens online, a lot of trolling happens online, a lot of false news is spread in groups online in the teenage, where you wanted to start off a rumor about someone. Once upon a time, we could only spend rumors in a small school
Right.
section. Now you can do it like globally, right? So when it comes to professional aspect, I think parents come on board saying addiction as one of the problems, loneliness as one of the problems, obesity is one of the problems. Yes, because of the excessive use of technology, most of us, and even the kids, because we are the example that they're following, are sedentary. And they're not getting enough exercise, they're not getting enough sunshine, they're not getting out of the house enough. So along with the online part opens the caveat to so much else as well. So these are the two aspects that I think, as a mommy and as a doctor, I struggle with, and I think it's where I try to bring in my information and help parents.
Right. Okay. Or when we talk about social media as well, for people, social media is a real world and they're putting out everything out there. So, what are the main concerns? Like, if we talk about young girls coming to you or their parents coming to you, what are the issues that they are facing in terms of safety or cyberbullying?
Right. So, like you said, Bhavna, first of all, I think we have to stop thinking that social media is not a part of
Yeah,
people's world. It is a
right.
one of the worlds that people live in. It can't be the
Exactly.
entire world, is what I tell young minds, older minds, all alike. In fact, there's something called metaverse, which is becoming a very important phenomenon to study around mental health. We're
Right.
trying to figure out how we can engage mental health in the metaverse context. So you can see the realms are getting very, very blurry. Speaking of young girls, I'll be honest, the insecurities or the issues that they face are not any different than what the older generation, your generation, my generation used to face. It's only amplified by so much more. Because, like I said, once upon a time, if I had an insecurity, it could be commented upon by 10 people that I meet in a day, right? However,
Right.
now imagine putting up a picture and it getting amplified and put out there for thousands and thousands of millions of people to just come by, throw an egg at me, and just walk away. And there you go,
Right.
my insecurity is highlighted. So the most common issues that young girls particularly struggle with are body image dissatisfaction. And I say the word dissatisfaction, does not dysmorphia, because dysmorphia is a
Right.
disease, but being dissatisfied. And if you ask any person, forget young or old, I think us women love to say, oh, I hate this about myself, I hate that about myself, and this gets just amplified on social media. So
Yeah.
body image dissatisfaction, number one. Number two, narcissism. It's funny how I say these two things, which are very different. One is insecurity
Yeah.
and one is narcissism. But being overtly absorbed in yourself, or being kind of thinking that you're the muse to the world, or that everything that you do is because it's full of validation and likes and ticks, then you start thinking that, okay, you know what, I'm know it all, do it all, and this is so great about me, whether it's a talent, whether it's your beauty, or whether whatever you're projecting. So coincidentally, one of the studies that I did back when I was living in Bombay, in a few schools that we studied, and what we studied were selfie taking along with narcissism and body image dissatisfaction. And it's interesting to know that very high levels of narcissism was seen in some, whereas body image dissatisfaction was also seen. So you can have the coexistence of the two.
Right.
Other than that, young girls often find gossip around them. Cyberbullying and trolling is there about the relationship they may be in. There is so much of threat online sometimes in a relationship. For example, a partner taking an intimate picture of you, or a sext, for example, and just putting the sext there online without your permission, and of course flouting the whole idea of consent in a relationship can go for a complete toss. So young girls need to be very careful. What's not very relevant to some minds, but it is very relevant to young girls these days, is that they are possibly even looking for a relationship online with a complete stranger, having not met them. And once upon a time that would again only happen limited by so many things, but now it's becoming very relevant. We see a lot of relationships happening which are catfishing, and very very common. In fact, the last month I remember this young girl who had a relationship with another gentleman in a very different city, and she thought he was a certain age, whereas he was twice the age of what he had cited. He said he was 20 and he was like 40 plus, married with children. So I think young girls often fall prey to, in the Indian context, we don't talk enough about pedophiles, or we don't talk enough about child abuse from older folks, or just taking advantage of that, but it happens. That's what I want to let you know. People catfish, people pretend to be somebody else altogether. And having said that, young girls these days are also getting hooked to addictions like gaming. So I don't want to only restrict to social media, but yes, gaming is a very big part of a lot of people's coping strategy. And even young girls find solace in that, content creating and finding the only validation to be that. So I think the issues are the same. The amplification is more, and they're just diversification to how you and I used to identify when we were that age as well.
Correct. Okay, Vaishali, coming to you. So you run this community where thousands of people and so many people coming together, right? So how is the digital world creating a safe space for women to come and share experiences of motherhood? And because earlier there was a time women were experiencing the same experiences but alone, and they did not have people to share it with. So a community like yours is doing a lot of good for these women. So how is how is your platform breaking stereotypes and giving them the fence to make informed decisions through awareness?
So, like I said, we started off by talking about things which are relevant, and the topic itself is important. I also feel that virtual world in many ways is also a boon. I know that we've crossed that stage where we keep saying, "Bless you, social media, bless you, online media," because it's just too much happening now that
Right.
it's overtaken. That it's a part of our lives now. Having said which, there in the real world, there are so many moms out there, there are so many people out there who have very very important stories and messages to share, but because they did not have an outlet back then, and
Right.
in some ways virtual world has actually played a good role. We should not just say it's evil, screen time is bad, and this is not right, and spending so much time while we are still browsing on the phone, we are telling our kids that, hey, no screen time, right? So somewhere down the line, that yes, addiction has become addiction, but let's take a step back and see what are the advantages. To us as the community, it has worked beautifully, because I'm not what to expect. The Champa tree is largely a community which is for women by women, for moms by moms, right? So the ideology was to bring out the stories of so many moms out there who have gone through a whole lot of, you know, so many struggles, that if we do not share their stories, we will not be inspired or motivated in any way. Right from postpartum, which we just feel is some term, right? It happens to
Right.
everyone, but I think the seriousness of it, or because the awareness has been so low in our country, luckily, in winter sun doesn't set at 4 p.m., so we don't know what it feels like to be depressed. I
Right.
have just delivered a baby, and I know that postpartum is a real thing. We do not talk about it because we didn't know about it. In the
Right.
real world, our dadis, nanis, mamas, and all those, they would say, "Hota hai, you'll get over with it."
Manage. Right.
So, but virtual world has really helped us, and it has shrunken this whole concept of alienation, and we have been able to provide that safe space in many ways. because the format of our platform is such. You won't be surprised. I was going through an app where it says, please do not share your pregnant pictures, because there is a whole nexus and a network of online, there is a, like, pedophiles and all of that. There is a community where posting pregnant pictures of pregnant mums or bellies is also like, some people seek pleasure out of it. So imagine, the platforms have gone to an extent where they're also creating that kind of awareness, that while you're sharing your happy moments and you're sharing, or you want to talk about, hey, is my baby growing okay, does my belly look okay, there's another world out there which is taking advantage of it. So I think our website is not, we wanted to create a safe space where people can even anonymously share their stories, and we tell the stories, we seek permissions, we ask them, are you okay if we want to bring it out, would you be okay if we post your picture? So, it all depends on how are you populating the information, right? The onus lies on the content platform a whole lot. You cannot just say that, hey, we are out here to break the news, or we are out here to share the news just for a few likes, or for views, or for readership. But the core purpose is to say that, hey, we have reached out to someone and touched someone's life by sharing an inspired story in a format which has been safe, or has
Right.
been placed safely, or has been, is permissible. So luckily we've been, kind of, we get a lot of queries that, hey, this is my challenge, would you like to bring it out, but I
Yeah.
want to go anonymous. So we filter and scan through all of it. Fortunately, we've not, and touch wood, we've not seen how it has played negatively for anyone. But you never know. Like I said, online media and virtual is great in
Yeah.
many ways, but it has its own disadvantages and repercussions.
Right. Thank you. So I'm moving on to my next question. The virtual world exposes various mental health issues, right? So how do you think parents can navigate the challenges around this? Because I also feel that it's one of, like Dr. Datta was telling earlier about these young girls getting on social media and the insecurities. It's often competition also driving them towards mental health issues. So how do you think parents are dealing with this? I want all three of you to answer. Bisma, can you go first, please?
So, I think one most important thing that parents can do for their children is to develop a hobby, to develop an interest, which is apart from social media. Nowadays children are so much addicted to social media that they don't have something else that they really enjoy doing, something else that they really look forward to doing. Okay, so I think if we build something which has more value, which holds more interest for a child compared to social media, a child will be more attracted towards that hobby compared to, depending on social media. The second thing I feel parents have to do is, help their child understand that they don't need to always seek validation from people around them. There is an intrinsic motivation, there is an intrinsic desire to learn, to feel good about oneself, and that is a very important quality to learn, right from childhood. So if we try to imbibe that quality even within us and even within our children, like even I am a blogger, like I blog about my profession on the Speaking Mummy. And unconsciously, when I talk to my husband, that I got so many likes on this post, or so many people have started following me. So my son will be like, okay, Mama, show me how many people are following you now. Oh, why are so less people following you? So, unconsciously he's listening to all those things and he's imbibing all those things. So, as parents, we have to be really mindful of, where are we seeking motivation from? Is our motivation coming from enjoying the work, what we do, or is our motivation coming from the number of likes or comments people are giving us? So, I think when you strike a balance there, then children can really, as they grow into adulthood, they can really learn to navigate around this. So that would be like my take on this.
Okay. Dr. Datta, what about you? As a professional, where do you see parents navigating this issue?
First of all, I don't want to demonize social media. You'd be surprised
Yeah.
that, of course, social isolation because of being excessively on social media can lead to mental health issues. I give you that. It's interesting that a lot of people go onto social medias because they
To
are socially isolated to find answers, right? You'd be surprised how many young kids have gone to their parents and said, I think I need help because I fit in ABCD categories or criterias, which I read online. Not all of the information on social media
yeah,
is true. That's something that is also worth talking about, right? Now, as a parent, first of all, we need to stop looking at everything from a very black and white perspective. The moment we do that, we have really lost the battle to our young ones because our
yeah,
young ones are really growing up with a questioning attitude. So develop
right,
critical thinking in yourself, dear parents, so that you can develop critical thinkings in your children. For example, it is bad. Why is it bad? And is it
right,
really bad, or is this aspect not good of a particular thing? Second thing is, I think, being aware. So many parents miss out on learning about newer things, getting onto social media and learning new things just because they're like, oh, the kids are doing it. I don't want to understand this. You'd understand a lot better about your child's thought process if you're literally on the same page,
yeah,
social media page in this case, as your child, right? Uh, I think open communication is the key for everything, any relationship to thrive. So maybe asking your child what they're doing and telling them what you are doing as well. It flows both ways. I see most
right,
parents asking, not giving information or sharing information about themselves. So why not say, hey, I saw this. What do you think about this? Because that's the development of critical thinking when it comes to social media, when it comes to any kind of new learning. And finally, I think we as parents need to really get together and develop more stricter community guidelines. Like, let me just ask out there, even for the viewers watching there, do the parents know what to do in case their child's personal pictures are exposed on social media? Do we know step one, two, three, four? Unfortunately, most parents don't. Now, if you want to protect your child, if an intruder enters your house, what do? You obviously push them out, you call the police, 100, right?
yeah,
You know the steps to that. But if an intruder has hurt your child on the internet, what do? There is a cyber community, there is a cyber helpline number. Just like there is a 100 police car number, similarly, there's a number 1930 for women
yeah,
domestic abuse. There is another number, right? I think it's 181. Now, there's a website where you can go and formally launch a complaint if you think somebody is morphing your child's picture and putting them online. If you think somebody is pretending to be, there are features within social media these days where you can report so many fake accounts. If you don't learn these yourself, I'm sorry, how will you navigate it for your
yeah,
children? So get on board, learn the basic SOPs, learn the basic guidelines that, hey, if this happens to your child tomorrow, finding answers at that time is going to only lead to chaos. Being aware, knowing where the fire extinguisher is before the fire is happening is important, right? So I think as
right,
parents, my sincere request and what I try to strive also personally and professionally is more awareness about how would we handle this situation without
right,
creating obviously a sense of paranoia, and more open communication with children and seeing where they come from. Why are they on social media? Why are they disconnected from us? And why are they feeling like this?
right. Vaishali, what about you? Do you come across parents who share these struggles about their children going through mental health issues?
Yes, and unfortunately, mental health is still considered a big taboo, right? No one's going to
Right,
come up or come out openly sharing their own mental state. Forget kids. You'll
correct.
always behave like your child is normal, even though the child is screaming and howling and is spending 20 hours a day on the internet.
Right,
But like I said, I mean, I agree with Ira and Bisma. Internet is not an enemy anymore. It is very much a part of our lives, right? So we cannot. The more you say sugar is bad for you, the more you're going to eat sugar, though your body doesn't need any extra sugar or salt. So you cannot. You just figure out alternatives, right? You just say, okay, let me have jaggery instead. So what is happening is that we are treating internet as an evil, and in that process we are actually um, wanting our kids are getting more curious and attracted to this medium.
right,
um, Rather we should just treat it as one of the other things that you could do in a day. Instead of imposing restrictions in a harsh way, say, sure, I'll fix your timetable or your schedule. In that schedule, I'm going to give you this much time for the internet, this much time for reading books, this much. And you just kind of try and strike a balance, which I think is not so easy because The
Right.
minute your child has browsed 30 minutes of internet that day, for that entire week, the time is going to only exceed the following week, which means that we will have to work really, really, really hard. And I know that it's not possible every time. So the the way to solve for this is to just go with the flow and say that we will tackle it the minute we find it becoming an obsession. Ask how much time are you spending, Bhavna, on your gadgets, or Era, or Bisma for that matter? If you have not managed to restrict yourself, how do you expect your kids to follow you, differently? So let's not, first of all, in our heads think that it's an evil. My child usually is reading a book on, say, 365 personalities to know. And then he asks me that, Mom, can I have your phone? And I see what he's doing is he's actually Googling more about that personality. I see it as a bone, right?
Right.
The minute we feel, and I'm not saying this that my child is amazing, there are times when I know that he's also misusing the internet. That's when I try and intervene and I say, hey, I think it'll be a good idea if we do it this way, the other way, and treat it as a hobby, as a subject. The minute they start to enjoy it, they'll associate with it in a better and a healthy way. So this is my advice and suggestion to most of the parents, though I'm not in that position where I know everything. I'm exploring it with my child, but this is what my experience says, that this is a probably better way than to say no. No
Yeah.
more sugar, no more salt, no more internet.
Right. So that was my next question, actually, conversation instead of instruction, right? So, Dr. Datta, I want to ask you this, like when parents approach you, so what are, like, because they're usually instructing their children to do something or to not do something, instead of holding a conversation, like Vaishali said, it has to be an intervention also, because parents are supposed to lead by example. So, what are the ways in which parents can do that, according to you? And are you seeing these changes in the last few years when it comes to how parents deal with their children?
Right. So what's interesting is that whenever, so I see adults and children, and whenever
Yeah,
a child case comes in, I am not seeing one person, I'm seeing three,
right,
because the child is only the patient zero, and actually the parents are the real people that I need to work with. And I absolutely always tell parents from scratch, I'm sorry, your child is not a broken clock that you've got to meet to fix, because most parents come with the thought process, here you go, this is wrong with my child, please fix it. And I said, it can't be fixed, first of all. You all need to work together to build a more cohesive environment. And what I love about parents is that we have 365 excuses for everything. Meaning, if I say, why are you on cell phone for so long? They'll come back at me and be like, but I work from home. Why will I not be on the cell phone for so long? Or if I say, why don't you lead by example? They're like, oh, I do plenty. And if I say, please work on your tone, oh no, my tone is great. It's perfect. Nothing is wrong with me. So honestly speaking, a lot of time goes in working with parents. And very humbly, I ask the parents, you are a human being as well. Why don't we work with you as a human being and then as a parent? And the children, what's interesting, are the best people to give feedback. When the mommies and the daddies work on themselves, children automatically behave in a very conducive manner, which is a good feedback. And they also tell their parents that, I'm so happy that, after meeting that doctor, you haven't really yelled at me. You've been just saying the same thing in the same consistent way. So maybe I will listen to you. And
right,
that's the change. So I agree, working with the parents, it's a hard job. But what has changed in the last few years, in my opinion, when I was training to become a psychiatrist
right,
versus now, probably the generation was still striving to make the ends meet and kind of get the basic stuff done, which is why they did not have the bandwidth to want to
right,
understand how to change. And it was also fixed in our head once upon a time that if you're older, you know everything, because, well, it solves all problem and experience brings everything with it. So I think the newer generation, what I'm really loving about it is that more parents are willing and accepting if I tell them that, hey guys, why don't we make the whole environment conducive, rather
correct,
than taking one plant from a nursery and saying, let's water this plant any differently, put it out in the sun. Why don't we just work on the soil in the nursery? And more parents surprisingly say, yes, I want to try. What does this entail? What does that mean? what does that look like? And I think that's a win-win for everybody, because nobody needs fixing. We all need to kind of better ourselves for our own selves. So
Right.
whether it's that gadget, and yes, every now and then when I indulge, my little one comes and gives me a mindful. So I think I'm doing a good enough job, because I get the feedback from her sometimes, especially at night if I'm putting her to bed, and she's like, "Are you setting the alarm or are you buying something?" So I think children really give beautiful feedback. So yes, I think working together as a family is far more important than only fixing children and their guidelines.
Right. Bisma, how has your experience been handling children? Like you've come across children from various sections of society, right? So, what is your experience in terms of parents having those difficult conversations with children?
So I think these days parents are being more open to learning, to accepting the differences in their children, to understanding their difficulties in a better way compared to how it was in our generation, how it was maybe you can say 10, 15 years down the line. I have seen parents come up to me and tell me that my child does this and they do that, but they are not usually like this. Their behavior is not usually like this. They do like this only when they are very upset, or otherwise my child is very kind. So they see their children not they don't just see their child's negative behavior, but they see the child as a whole, and they try to understand their child as a whole. So I think that is something that parents have started doing, and I think we should really thank social media for that, because there are so many gentle parenting blogs, and
Right.
so many moms talking about gentle parenting, so many educators talking about gentle parenting these days, that parents have started to understand where they are going wrong and how they can correct themselves. They are eager to learn and make those changes happen. So I think that has been like really good in these past few years.
Right. Thank you. Vaishali, I want to come to you. How is it important to report cybercrime? Like it is essential, but I think people still refrain from reporting it or maybe talking about it. So as a platform, as someone who's come across so many parents living the shared experience, so what do you suggest parents should do when it comes to cyber reporting?
Cybercrime, just like not understanding what your maternity leave policies are in India. These two areas are quite gray, by the way. And I think
Yeah.
most of us agree that most women do not know their rights at workplace when they're pregnant or they have delivered. And cybercrime is also equally, and these two are apparently the most important topics that our government should lay guidelines. There should be entities working towards these two very very critical areas. um, my only, because I don't know where we are headed with
Right.
so much influx of information, with so much happening out there virtually. Like Ira mentioned about pedophiles. I don't know if any one of you knows that internationally there are certain signs that help you track the pedophiles online, right? So India is far, far from there, and I don't know whether I should be happy that we've not reached that stage, or I should be sad that we don't report the
Report.
level of crime that's happening online. But parents, and I think certain entities should work together to create guidelines, which, I remember that there were certain bodies that worked towards this whole, signals of phones, and, you should not use phones, that petitions were signed. We need to work towards this for cybercrime as well. We should not wait for someone to, or we should not wait for some mishap to happen for the
Right.
seat belts to be, kind of made mandatory for the back passenger sitting at the back. We really need very, very strong guidelines, and we cannot ignore this, because this can have a very, very harsh implication on the future of the future generation. um, and I really have no answers, because I have worked relentlessly to create awareness around things that are very close to, parents, and I still see that, till the moment it's not legalized, things
Right.
do not take any shape and form. um, as a platform, what we do is we make sure that our platform is safe. We have made sure that our CMS, our plugins, our everything is so secure that the minute
Right.
you're on our platform, you know you're safe. Your
Right.
child is right. The algos which are on these social media platforms,
Right.
which our kids are generally exposed to, एक गाना आएगा तो उसके बाद उससे related content जो आएगा, you don't know that content is just crazy. So, as
Right.
a platform, we have tried to make sure that we are where we are and we are very safe for our viewers and our readers. Technology needs to be very strong. You should have a very, very strong backbone on the foundation on which your platform is sitting. If I'm
Correct.
sure Bisma would know that there are certain protocols that every platform needs to take to make sure that. But we are a parenting community. We need to be safe. I'm
Right.
I'm worried for all the platforms that are catering to audience with an age group from, they say, legally 18 plus, but you don't
Yeah.
know, right? Or content which is even on YouTube for that matter. You say
Correct.
YouTube Kids, but you can't block a lot of other content on YouTube Kids, which is probably not, our Indian kids are not, very, very mature to understand that kind of content, right? Because
Right.
certain things in India are not expressing love between, a man and a woman or a father and a mother. I don't think in Indian kids the maturity is there because we are not that kind of culture. And
Right.
like I said that, and but we are watching that culture. So if my child wants to know why am I not kissing his father on the lips, right? I don't know how to answer that because I might just. But I saw that Sheldon's parents were. So why aren't you? So you just don't know where to draw the line. Should my child be watching Sheldon or not? Even though it's meant to be, a healthy
Okay.
program.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, I don't know. Our country, in our country, it's very hard to say. Till the time there's nothing legal, you cannot do anything.
Right. Exactly. So coming to my last question, I want to ask all three of you, what are some of the tips you would suggest parents should remember while they're working towards creating a safe environment for their children, right? Like from your experiences working for so many years, what are the top advices you would like to give parents in dealing with their children? Bisma, go first, please.
So, if you are, asking specifically with respect to, screen or usage of social media, so, few important things that I would really like parents to follow is, so if you see the American Academy of Pediatrics doesn't recommend any screen time till 2 years of age. Like I work in the early intervention sector where most babies come to me between 1.5 to 2 years of age and who have already been exposed to 16 to 18 hours of screen time per day. The youngest baby that I saw being exposed to screen was 3 months old. So, it's really, really important that parents know these guidelines. They know when to start, and they know why these early years are, really important for their children. So, that would be the first point, that you should know that at what age you should be starting. The second thing is you should know what kind of content you should show your child. So, usually parents are, handing over the phone to the child. The child is just mindlessly scrolling on YouTube, and we have seen that this usage has the same effect on the child's brain as the drug cocaine would have on an adult's brain. The effect or the kick that it gives to the child's brain is very much similar. So you need to understand that what kind of content you want your child to watch, and the content should be at a pace which is suitable for the child's brain. Overstimulating shows that are too aggressive, that are too overstimulating, should be avoided. So that is one thing that parents need to understand. And the third thing that I would recommend parents is to monitor your own screen time as well. See, we are
Right.
working parents. It's impossible to tell parents that don't show any screen to the child. It's very harsh. No parent is going to accept that. So it's important that we monitor, we set a routine, and we abide by the routine. So I think when you set a routine for the child with respect to the screen time, the child is going to follow the limits that you are setting, and will be more acceptable towards it, rather than whenever the child cries, just hand over the phone, give the screen, use it as a means of distraction. We should not be doing those things. So I think those are the 3 points that I would tell parents of young children to be mindful about.
Right. Dr. Datta, what about you?
I think Bisma covered pretty much everything. But other than that, I think when it comes to creating safety, think of it in the same way as what would you do to make your child safe in the real world.
Right.
We're so particular about those corner edges when the kids are learning to walk, but we aren't as careful later on when it comes to virtual world. Just like there's stranger danger taught to children, when we start teaching them about bodies. I think the same idea. Don't share excessive information online. Be mindful of who you follow, who's following you. No need to share your passwords with friends. Also, for that matter, can be misused. Be
Right.
cognizant that not everything on social media is as shiny as it looks. Very
Yeah.
important for children to imbibe right from the get-go, telling them that there's a boundary between what they're showing and what the reality may ensue,
Correct.
and building boundaries around children for critical thinking. I keep saying that with due respect, because instead of telling them, I'm sorry, they are the ones who are telling us a lot these days with the
Right.
information they're absorbing. So having a conversation and a dialogue with them. Speaking of bodies, I do want to say that, for example, America has actually a legal body called COPPA, which is child online protection, particularly. But in India, we're still working with the POSCO, which is the sexual part of if a child has been sexually abused. I think some of the tangents from that could emerge the cybersecurity around children, but we have a long way to go. And I think for that, we as parents need to first keep on working on ourselves, keep on
Right.
working towards making social media safe for adults also. With due respect,
Right.
we can't only be teaching kindness and not following kindness and trolling each other online and expecting children to not be trolled or not troll others.
Correct.
So watching how we react in a space, online space where nobody's watching, because that's the worst and the best part about being online. You're
Right.
anonymous. So I think pretty much as real life, develop the same guidelines, your own moral compass with children as you have for your real life. You will not let your child walk off with a stranger. So
Right.
similarly, and everything that Bisma said was just wonderful and beautifully put together. Thank you.
Thank you. Vaishali, what about you?
I would just say that children are our guiding stars. They tell us and they indicate, and they are the ones who are mostly prompting us to take an action, right? Their questions and their curiosity, and whatever the questions that they pose, they make us wonder. So it's pretty much the same thing. It's the standard response to such a important question, that you need to be mindful, but you can't keep saying that, hey, no, 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 no will never
Yeah.
work. It has to be very gentle. It has to be really, really, and it needs a lot of hard work. Like I said, that it's not like today. I said, "Aaj to hum bas yehi karenge," and tomorrow I'm the one who's not implementing it. The child is
Right.
going to say, "Oh, she's not serious about it." I don't think it's a serious matter, to be honest. So you just have to work towards it to make it work. Passwords should be family passwords. You need to tell your child that this is something very sacred. Hey, do it in a way that see how your child enjoys his time. If he likes
Correct.
music, you think of doing it in musically, right, to ensure that the idea has been inculcated. It's not one-sided instruction that I've given and we're following it. Make it like
Yeah.
a teamwork, that we have to make sure that as a family we stay safe. So what we must do to stay safe is, let's not share our pictures. At least you should not. If mama is sharing, then there's a reason why she's sharing. Did she seek your permission? All these things. And the only difference in parenting I see in India compared to, to other Western countries, is that there we really, really give importance to a child's decision. Here we discard their decision. The minute
Right.
I ask my child that, do you think this is a good idea? Do you think we should be doing it this way? Do you think I should post your pictures? But do you think you should not post your pictures? Seek their inputs, and that is how we can possibly inch towards making internet as a safe space, at least as a family or for the unit.
Right.
And as a person who's a child and growing into a mature adult, the same ideologies will be imbibed. That tomorrow, Harshal, you're going to be a father. Do you think it'll be a good idea to be posting pictures which your child might be embarrassed of? So I think things like these interactive things will really work. And I think it's to each his own. We can only sit here and preach and practice and say things that, but if they're impractical, it won't make sense. So, no glorification or beautification of how it can happen. We take each day as it comes, but do it playfully and in a fun way.
Right. Okay. Thank you, three of you, for joining and participating in this. It was great talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Most welcome. It was a pleasure to be with these wonderful ladies over here.